Hi, and welcome to the Financial Planner Life podcast, where we talk to professionals at varying stages in their career about what it's like working in the wonderful world of financial planning. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Recruit UK, a recruitment consultancy specifically focused on the financial services. I'm Sam Oakes, and I'm joined today by Jade Rose from Reddings Wealth Management. In this podcast, we talk about her journey into financial advice, as well as covering topics such as health and wellness, financial literacy, as well as women in finance. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to rate the podcast and leave your feedback and comments below. Welcome to the Financial Planner Life podcasts. My name is Sam Oakes, and I have Jade Rose with me today. And Jade Rose is you can tell me what you are, actually.
I am a financial planner. I started my life as a fashion designer and a buyer, and I've been working in the city I've been in the city for about 6 years, but I've been a financial planner for about 1 year.
Brilliant. So you're a financial planner working for Reddings Wealth Management.
That's correct.
And Reddings Wealth Management are a...
Reddings Wealth Management is a boutique practice. Okay. So it's myself and my founder, and it's a female-led practice.
Wow. Okay.
We are backed by St. James's Place,
Lovely.
but we are essentially operating as a boutique.
Okay.
So we manage our own clients. We have our own vision and marketing direction, which is great. So essentially we have the benefit of servicing our clients like a family office, but we have, through economies of scale, the resources of a FTSE 100 company. So it's the best of both worlds for our clients.
Pretty cool to me.
Yeah.
I love the fact you said it's a bit like a family office. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean?
Family in every sense of the word. So Tracy has her daughter going through the St. James's Place Academy. Yeah. So she's power planning, and she'll be coming on board as an advisor shortly. Yeah. And the service that we offer to the clients is what you'd expect from a family office. So that's... I don't want to say 24/7 because that may give people the idea to call me on a Sunday. But if they wanted to, they absolutely could. Okay. And it's a type of service where we found the bigger banks aren't able to service clients who fall into that middle wealth category. Okay. And that's a lot of people.
Yep, huge. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's family in both sense of the words.
Fantastic. So you mentioned there as well, it's female. Is it female only? Or is it just that there are all females in there at the moment?
It just happens that it's females at the moment. Right. We do have Stephen, our head of operations, who is the glue of the practice. He's the man in the know. Yes. So it's just happened that way. But the beauty of Reddings is that it's growing organically. So it wasn't contrived to only hire women or to go in this direction. But we really wanted to build something organic and authentic. And it's just evolving as is.
Oh, fantastic. So do you see yourself as a kind of boutique firm in London that are showcasing women within financial advice? You know, you're putting that out there as a business as well, because that's quite a hot topic at the moment, females in financial advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Did we set out to be a boutique practice, if you will? Not necessarily, but I think it ties into the zeitgeist of what's going on socially and politically, economically. I mentioned my background is fashion, and we have this movement of slow fashion as opposed to fast fashion, and it's being mindful about what we consume and how we live our lives and living with intention. Yeah. And I think that's an ethos that we're really trying to build out with Reddings as well.
Love it. Yeah.
So it's not about how many clients we can get and how much business we can do. It's about being intentional and mindful. What are the relationships we're creating? How does that benefit the other clients? Who can we connect? What is the direction and the vision of the business? So that's really where we're going with this.
Okay, cool. So kind of all-encompassing business from a mindfulness perspective. Do you, as a business, practice a lot of mindfulness? Is that sort of incorporated into your business? Does anybody outline what mindfulness means to Reddings?
So interestingly, from a personal perspective, I work with a coach. I practice a lot of mindfulness in my days and evenings too. And we're actually meeting with somebody tomorrow as a team to work on what mindfulness means as a team, communicating with each other, mindfulness for clients. Because, the managing the money part is just a very small part of what a financial planner does. A lot of it is behavioral psychology. It's counseling at times. It's deploying empathy. And so without emotional intelligence, it's actually quite difficult to get far in this role. Okay. So, we as a practice, we do a lot of work on that.
Okay, great. Emotional intelligence is definitely an area that I'm interested in, and I could imagine being in a predominantly relationship-focused role like a financial advisor.
Yes.
It's imperative to be able to pick up on somebody's ups and downs, how they're feeling, and being in tune with their emotions at probably times of their lives, I guess, that can be quite stressful. Do you deal with people at typical stressful times of their lives where money can be quite used as a weapon sometimes, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, money is a dirty word anyway.
Yeah.
It's the British thing of, oh my God, I want to talk about money. So already it's an emotive topic. It can be a divisive topic. But the main thing I would say, because a lot of people say, well, what is financial planning and financial advising? To me, financial advising is transactional.
Yep.
You may want to buy a home. You come to me. I help you to do that. Financial planning is what it sounds like. It's planning holistically, 360. I hate all those buzzwords, but it's true. We have had people call their advisors when their parents have died.
Yep.
They haven't called siblings or children. They've been on the phone to their financial advisor and said, what do I do? And at that point, they don't want to know about inheritance tax and probate and wills and estates. They just want to know it's going to be okay.
Yeah, what's going to happen?
Exactly. Yeah. So, there's a high level of emotional intelligence required.
Yeah, you're confident, aren't you? At the end of the day, you're somebody that individual can call at a time of stress and pressure and worry. And, and money can, without a doubt, cause that. And certain life events can cause that, and you are, I guess, trained and prepared to deal with those situations to calm it down. So you mentioned somebody coming in and doing some training with you.
Yes.
So talk to me about that, because that's really nice. I love the sound of that. So tell me about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big advocate of it. So as I said, it's just knowing how to be better, as you said, confidence in certain situations. For example, you said money used as a weapon. We see a lot of the time women coming in where they've not controlled their finances. Maybe they're going through a divorce and they don't know what to do. And there's a certain level of empathy and understanding that you need to deploy in that situation. We've had people where family members have passed away, or maybe they wanted to put their children through private school and they've realized, that they just can't, And it's having those difficult conversations and knowing how to relate to different people. So I think that would be great for the team.
Is that St James's Place providing that training, or is that an external trainer?
That's an external trainer, and that's something we pushed for with Reddings. So going back to the boutique practice and the family office feel, we manage our practice how we want, and this is the direction we'd like to go in.
Okay. It's great to see that Reddings Wealth Management obviously invest in their staff. And I think that's really, really important anyway within any business, is the company are willing to actually invest in their staff through training and retention and all that kind of stuff. So lovely to see that. Okay, well, let's just talk a little bit. Let's step away from that and we'll come back to it in a minute, okay? Let's talk about you and your career to date, how you ended up working within financial advice. Because previous to working as a financial advisor, you were working in financial services. But prior to that, you were working in the fashion industry.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't think I've ever come across anybody who's been working in the fashion industry that has then transferred across to financial advice. To me, it's like complete differences, polar opposites. One's a creative environment, one's a very technical environment. Yes. So why did you move?
So I've always been intrigued by the stock market from a young age. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how it worked. I just knew it was this thing that you invested in and you made more money and the open outcry, in the old days. And I was just fascinated by it. But I never pursued it because I didn't know I could.
Yeah.
It was never a career that was explained to me or suggested that I go for. And so I just didn't.
Okay. So do you think if somebody was to have come to your school, for example, when you were younger and actually talked about financial services at a really young age, do you think that might have influenced your decision to potentially go into financial advice at a much younger age?
Quite possibly, yes. I mean, I'm a big believer in if you can see it, you can be it. Yeah. And all it takes is for you to recognize yourself in somebody else and think, I want to be like them. I want to do what they're doing. So quite possibly. I mean, I'm grateful for the career trajectory that I've had because, as you said, creative, left brain, right brain, I know I have a different approach to a lot of my peers.
Yep.
particularly with the marketing, the branding, and also just connecting with people on a people level.
Yeah.
So I followed the fashion route, which is and remains my first love.
Yeah.
And then I started buying for an online retailer. And actually, you say it seems completely different, and it is on the surface, but in buying, you are focused on profit and loss.
Yeah.
You're trend forecasting. You're responding to the market. Political, geopolitical, social, economic factors do play into it. You know, what's going on in China with the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of suppliers and factories are over there. They can't get their stock over. Similarly, Apple is taking a hit because their factories are over there, and that's pulling tech stocks down. So it's actually quite similar in a way. But so when I was in buying, I enjoyed the business side, and I thought, I'm really enjoying, can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm enjoying the spreadsheets.
Really?
I really like these spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets.
I know. So then it piqued my interest. This kind of, the earlier interest in the stock market I had, it kind of resurfaced. And I thought, maybe we should look at this. And at the same time, I was freelance designing, and I had to do my tax return. And it may as well have been in a foreign language. I was like, what is going on? So I thought, right, I'll teach myself how to do this. I'll get this tax return done. And it's that classic case of I read the book, I was interested, I Googled, and I just fell down the rabbit hole. And it was like walking through the wardrobe to Narnia, because I thought, wow, this whole world exists. And honestly, that's how it felt. This whole world exists that I didn't know was here. And then I almost felt a bit robbed or a bit cheated, because I was like, nobody tells you this in school. Right. Nobody tells you or explains to you that there are ways to make money and to essentially buy yourself or invest in your security. All of these. And I was like, I wish I'd have known this earlier. So
I mean, they don't even teach you about credit cards in school,
they
or lending or borrowing or mortgages or anything like that. And I think that's just so many people get into debt so quickly when they leave school, when they go to university, and they just, especially in a very consumer-driven world we're in now, you know, they don't have any respect for money, I don't think. And I think, you know, I've gone down that trap. I'm not sitting here saying, you know, I'm totally aware of how easy it is to get into debt and how easy it is to spend money. The more you make, the more you spend. Oh yeah,
we're always living to the edge of our means, aren't we? We're never, you know, well, that's unfair. Some people are, but you know, it's interesting because I had this conversation only today with a friend about how a bank would never sign off a loan of 20, 30, 50,000 pounds to an 18-year-old. It just wouldn't happen. It's ridiculous. Yet 18-year-olds sign up for student loans. They're not taught about the interest out the gate. They're not taught that the debt may be sold on in 10 years as a next tranche of debt. And then that's something that people have to pay off over decades of their life. So these types of conversations were actually, in this day and age, somebody with a fashion degree, I loved it, learned a lot from it, but that's something where you can learn on the job. And it's not particularly necessary. And I'm not saying that to insult anybody with an arts degree, because if I could do my time again, I still would. But had I been explained about student loan and the interest and the debt, I would have thought twice about the trade-off and if I could get to where I wanted to a different way.
So in a perfect world then, you having a better understanding of financial advice, for instance, at a younger age, what do you, if you could implement something now, what would it be?
For my younger self?
Yeah, for your younger self. What if you were to implement something now to make you more financially aware at a younger age, what would that actually be? What would it have to look like? I
think it should be a part of school syllabus. I think it's just as important as maths, English, science. And I think there should be more done to break down the taboo of talking about money. I know from my own experience, you bring up money in the home and it's it's none of your business. You're the child, I'm the adult. And I get why it's uncomfortable, and you know, but it's not helpful, because then you're just perpetuating generations of financial illiteracy, and that's not helping anybody. So I think for me, the main thing is to just get it into schools. And that's why I try to reach out to younger people and kind of make talking about money as comfortable as possible. Just get people going with it.
People make money out of managing money. don't they?
Yes,
People
absolutely.
make money when they look after their money. So why wouldn't we as a society, as a country, want people to be investing the right way, in the right manner, not going off and just smashing the Forex or whatever and having a go because
everybody's a Forex coach these days.
You're gambling, aren't you, at the end of the day? But why wouldn't we want to protect people in that way? Because it's gonna, or is it we don't? We just want them to borrow money and get into university and get into debt and be controlled.
Oh well, that's probably a conversation. Yeah, that's probably a conversation for another time. And I have my own opinions on that one. But I mean, putting myself in that position to answer the question as 18-year-old Jade, I didn't know what investing was.
Right.
And I'll explain. I knew you put your money into something and apparently you get money back.
Yep.
Great. That was the extent of my knowledge. I didn't understand debt. I didn't understand equity. I didn't understand why I was investing. I'd be like, okay, you want this money, but what's in it for me? And I think a big problem we face is the jargon and the terminologies, and it's so technical. And before I came into finance, I did used to think, do they do this on purpose?
Yeah.
Are they making us feel dumb so that we don't get involved? Conspiracy theory, if you will.
Of course.
And now that I've gone through many, many exams and a long time studying, I realize it's technical for a reason. These are complex instruments we're talking about, and you're talking about people's livelihoods, and but that doesn't mean that the complexity needs to be passed down to the end client.
Okay.
And I think that's where the industry is going wrong. You may engage with a lawyer, and law speak, we all know, is a whole other language.
Yep.
But they should simplify it for their clients. But I think finance is lagging behind in that sense.
Psycholinguistics, they call it, isn't it? Psycholinguistics, simplifying, instead of using complete complex jargon, keep it nice and simple so everybody can actually understand it.
Exactly.
There was a good bank that came out called Smile Bank. Do you remember Smile Bank?
No.
And they're because I used to be a trainer, we used to train out a little bit around psycholinguistics. And their banking literature and marketing was really great. So they'd send like a simple black letter out with a little smile. Remember like a smile, like an emoji smile where you would do on text smile, when it first came out. They're that, and then he'd send a little toothbrush out as well. So like a little bit of marketing like that. And that was a bank.
Yeah.
No banks were really doing that. And it was just really simple language, and you opened it up, it was like Smile Bank, smile instantly, you feel like you want to smile. They send you a little toothbrush, so you're thinking that's cute.
Yeah.
And the next thing, you've got this lovely little black card as well, which has got a smile on it, and you're thinking, well, I want to be with that bank.
I'm going to write that one down for ideas.
Yeah, well, it's a bit like the challenger banks, isn't it? The simplicity of it, and what they're trying to do is simplify banking and incorporate saving pots into their online accounts, make it so you can instantly look at your savings, put things away, take money out that's gradual, so you're not feeling like it's a big huge chunk coming out. It's just so many lovely ways to manage your money, and again technology is allowing and facilitating that to happen. But I think we still need to know, because we can put our money in loads of different saving pots as much as we want, but we're still going to take it out when we want to buy a new t-shirt because we're going out on Saturday night. So it's about kind of understanding the worth of that money, I think, at quite a young age, what it actually means to your future financial planning, isn't it? Understanding that. And how the hell are you going to survive in the future,
Yeah.
And there's other factors to take into account, such as whether you're female or whether you're male. Are you going to live as long, or are you going to be raising children if that's what you want to do, and all that kind of stuff.
So this is the scary thing. Women tend to live longer than men, but at the point of retirement, the female pension pot is worth 20% of the male pension pot.
Yeah.
But he's going to die before you.
Yeah.
So how are you going to live? How are you going to...
So my counter on that would be that she would inherit it.
But if she's never controlled it, or if she's not built that up, and she doesn't understand what this is, and I'm not, making a sweeping statement of women here, but in this scenario where her pension is worth a fifth of the man's, I would suggest she's not as financially literate as she could have been. Otherwise, her pension pot would have matched his. And on top of that, if she has dependents to care for as well, then she has to now think, how is she passing that down to them tax efficiently? Because there may be a huge tax bill on that. So, of course, these are all sweeping statements, but it's things to consider.
But also the gender pay gap as well, isn't it? That plays a part in that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so interestingly, again, I had this conversation this week. So, yes, the gender pay gap is still there, but it's absolutely improving and it is closing. But the bigger gap is the gender wealth gap.
Okay,
in that men invest more,
right,
and they take more risk.
Yeah, I've read this. Yeah.
Whereas women Well, the opposite. They're not investing as much. And it's not that women are prepared to take less risk. They're just taking more cautious risk.
Okay, yeah.
And we've found that the suggestions made to men are high risk, high return, you know, and the women, it's quite safe and it's your fixed interest and those types of things. And again, that comes back to the financial literacy and just having people. And, you know, men and women can have different goals. So Reddings is a founding partner of the Wealthy Hair Network, which was launched last International Women's Day.
Right.
And it aims to connect professional women from all over the city with the shared vision of promoting female wealth.
Okay.
Wealthy Hair commissioned a report, and what it found was that women are happy to invest as much as men, and they want to invest as much as men. It's just they may have different goals and different reasons for doing so. And the key themes that came out of that were providing for family, security, philanthropy, ranked highly. And so when you're looking at philanthropic investing, you're looking at impact investing in companies that are doing good, companies, you know, maybe looking at getting rid of plastics or renewable energy and things like that. So it's not that women don't want to invest or don't like investing, all of that nonsense. It's just that they have different priorities.
Well, ethical investing's a really big thing, you know, and it's going to get bigger, isn't it? People want to know where their money is going and what impact it's having on the world.
Yes.
And we're so well connected now, we can see directly what parts of the world are suffering over others.
Yeah.
Is ethical investing more attractive to female clients than it is male clients? Have you found that, or?
I wouldn't have the resources to say it's more important to women than men, but I do know that it is high on the list of priorities for women when they're investing. With that being said, a lot of our older male clients, which typically you would think, you know, they've made their money, it's low on their agenda, actually they're starting to think about their grandchildren.
Okay, yeah.
And it may not affect them in their lifetime, but what about their 3-year-old grandchildren? And exactly. So there is definitely a shift. And I think in a world of globalization, of the internet, like you said, you can't get away from it. We can see what's happening. We can't, you know, cognitive dissonance isn't a thing. We can see exactly what's happening. We know what part we're playing. And I think, you know, social conscience, people care.
You mentioned, we spoke on the phone before this, and also just briefly earlier about health and well-being. Now, I think financial advice has a place in the health and well-being market. I think people worry excessively about money. It causes anxiety. It can cause family problems. It can cause depression, and more often than not, some people can kill themselves over money.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think when money can be talked about in a way that then impacts mental health, for instance, I think that's a really great thing. And I think the health and well-being market is booming. It's huge in America. You know, when you look at financial planning companies in America, some of them very much feel like a health and well-being product. I was interested to see what your thoughts were on that, because if I started a financial advice company right now, I would be trying to get into the health and well-being market.
Yeah.
And there's loads of money in the health and well-being market as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is. Although I don't like to put the commercial spin on things, but no, you're right.
We're trying to make money here.
But in my personal life, I am a big believer in keeping everything balanced: work-life balance, mental health, financial health, all of the above. And absolutely, as a practice, that is what we're trying to do with our clients. I work with a few coaches who work with their clients who focus on money blockages and kind of energies and mindset, because, you know, our relationship with money is taught and it's inherited. And whether that's from parents or from friends, society, whatever it may be, but the stories and the narratives you have are kind of external factors that have shaped your view over the years.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people say to me, "Oh, Jade, you know, I'm never going to be a millionaire." And it's like, well, if you say that,
not with that attitude,
I hate it because people say it to me, and I'm like, shut up. But it's true, you know. If you going back to, if you can see it, you can be it. If you don't believe it for yourself, how can you possibly put yourself in a situation where you attract that money?
But then, so what? If someone thinks they're not going to be a millionaire, then perhaps they're not going to be a millionaire, and perhaps they should stop thinking about it and actually look at other aspects of life, where instead of worrying so much about that instinct of prestige. Look at an area that, gives you fulfillment.
Yeah, no, you're totally
right.
You
can manage that. You can manage that side by accepting it, or accepting that this is how much you're earning. And by the way, if you live to the average age, it's going to be this much. This is how much you're going to need to save.
Yeah.
So why don't we calm that part of you down and let you live the rest of your life knowing that what we're putting away is going to look after you and your family, fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, you're right. Not everybody aspires to wealth, nor should they. But that money mentality works from a different perspective as well. If all you're thinking about is a lack of money or how much stress the lack of money is causing you, that's going to consume you, and that does lead you down the path of mental health issues and worries. And actually, you're completely right. I think in society, success is defined by monetary gain and what's in your bank account. But if you have the right money internal dialogue to say, actually, I'm comfortable providing for my family, I'm comfortable, as is, that's a great place to be in, because at the end of the day, we're all striving for happiness. Yeah. Happiness to some people is X amount per month. Some people want millions and millions on a yacht in Monaco. But it's the internal dialogue that you're having with yourself that's what counts.
Okay. Clearly you are quite interested in money and you're quite interested in financial services. You've got a passion for it.
Yes.
Without a doubt. So let's go back again to when you were working in fashion, which is a predominantly creative environment, and you were working for somebody as a buyer, then you left and you went freelance.
Yes. Actually, I was freelancing at the same time.
You were freelancing at the same time?
Yes, in the evenings.
So what did freelancing being self-employed then, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so what did that teach you about work and responsibility and managing multiple tasks?
That taught me how to hustle.
That
taught me how to hustle, and that experience prepared me for my life as a financial planner, because if anybody is interested in getting into this industry, I love it. I wake up on Monday super happy to go to work, but it's hard. And it's funny because people want to be their own boss because they don't want to do 9 to 5. I said, well, actually, when you're your own boss, you're doing 8 a.m. till 2 a.m. So the hours don't shrink. They expand. But it's great and I love it. But the buying taught me corporate. It taught me how to operate in the paradigms of a huge corporate structure and how to be a part of that machine. And then the freelancing taught me how to do the work I want to do and how to balance different projects, how to context switch, which in financial planning, you're context switching all the time. Every time you take a new meeting, you have to switch.
Context switch being a different person you're seeing, a different environment, a different set of questions.
Absolutely.
No 2 days are the same.
Exactly. It could be from person to person. It could be from a 55-year-old man with a business ready to retire to a 21-year-old just starting out wanting to buy a house to a meeting to develop a presentation on financial education for children. All three require a different version of me. So it can be challenging, but I think the buying and the designing experience taught me how to cope with that.
Okay, great stuff. So thinking on your feet, being able to do multiple tasks. You were working with commercial businesses, so you've got the business front to you. You've also got that thinking on your feet type approach from being a freelancer.
And that working till 2 a.m.
And they're working till 2 a.m. And I can agree with you on that. I've run a recruitment business for the last 11 and a half years, and you certainly do take your work home with you. You think about it 24/7. You really, really do, and you've got to learn to switch off, otherwise it consumes you.
But going back to the emotional intelligence, when you are working with people's money, and they're trusting you with that, I can't switch off.
No.
I can't say I don't respond to emails after this time, because you've trusted me with your life savings. So I feel like it's my duty to be available.
Okay, so what do you do then to manage your personal well-being in the work arena? Because, let's be honest, as you said earlier, being a financial advisor is hard, and I can imagine it can be quite stressful.
Yeah.
So what do you do personally to manage that?
So at first, it was a bit of a free-for-all, which I think for anybody going self-employed, it always is, because you don't have a boss watching when you turn up or when you go home. You don't have somebody chasing you for a deadline. So the first few months were kind of finding my feet, and even things as trivial as eating properly.
Okay.
If you're out all the time, you're grabbing food on the go. And I did admittedly fall into an unhealthy cycle. So now what I've done to look after myself is to set my own routine and my own structure. So For me, that is going to the gym in the morning before work, because I could be home at 5, I could be home at 11, who knows? But if I get my workout in the morning, that's covered. I do a lot of journaling. I practice a lot of self-care.
I love journaling. I do journaling every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you'd have asked me this question 4 or 5 years ago, perhaps I wouldn't have answered so honestly. But I think it's important to get rid of that 24/7 hustle culture, which actually is in contradiction to what I've been saying. I'm a big believer in the 24/7 hustle culture if you're looking after yourself as well. Yeah,
as long as you're
absolutely.
finding that balance. So it's about making time for yourself. It's about making time for... I think some of the biggest frustrations you see is that, and I've done it myself, where I've been working my socks off and my downtime would be to go to the pub or something. I mean, there's nothing healthy about doing that for me, because I get up and I'd be hungover and there's my weekend gone. Mm-hmm. So now my whole approach is, I finish work, I think that's
because we're getting old. I think that's a sign.
I just can't do it. So I go to yoga and I do, and I like my meditation, and I read and I journal and I review my days, and I read into how the psyche works and how the conscious mind works, and I work at trying to observe my instincts and how my instincts can't control my life.
Yes.
And that is essentially mindfulness. Mm-hmm. And then building practices in on a daily basis, good positive habits that reinforce good positive thinking, and then all of a sudden, bam, my mindset has shifted, and I'm in a completely different place.
Amazing.
And you have to break those habits, don't you?
Yes.
And that was one of the things that
and it's hard.
It's bloody hard. I mean, I spent, like, personally, right, I'm on a journey where I don't drink alcohol anymore, don't touch anything. Everything I do is about building healthy habits.
Are you vegan too?
I'm not vegan.
Okay.
I tried it for about 3 months and I really struggled with it.
Okay.
Although my wife is on my case at the moment to get back on it, because it affects her diet, affects her body, and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely understand veganism. I believe in it. But you know, when you're trying multiple things and it's like, it's just too much stuff, I'm trying to better. So I just didn't do that. But yeah, some balance for me is important. And I can see that in the financial advice. I speak to a lot of financial advisors, and some are just stressed out of their nuts. You know, some of them make a lot of money, but they look unhealthy, or they're stressed, or it's all well and good earning all that money, but if you're not,
it's not going to buy you health.
It's not going to buy you health.
It really won't.
Yeah, and this is where I'm kind of just sort of trying to make that connection, because I think everybody's waking up at the moment.
Yes.
And everyone's waking up to a healthier way of life. People are more connected. People want to look out for each other's mental health. People want to be talking about it. People now need to be talking about money without a doubt, because there's so many people who are, and again, are younger, that have got that instinct to buy a property because they want security, and are really struggling to be able to actually be able to do it. And I think the financial industry has slightly got a bit of a gap in age. So you've got an aging population of advisors that, say, 10,000 are going to be leaving in the next like 5 years, and most of those are like, the average age is like 55, right, and male and white. You know, so we've got this kind of demographic that's going to be leaving the industry, and then we've got a lot less people coming into it that can relate to the next generation. I mean, I'm 38 and I'm classed as a millennial. There aren't many financial advisors that I would say between the age of like 27, let's say, up to my age. There's not an abundance of them out there. Do you think there's a lack of opportunity? Do you think then there's a huge opportunity for the financial planning industry to service clients that aren't being clients? Because you mentioned about Middle England earlier. And
yeah, absolutely.
Do you kind of get where I'm coming from here?
So your question is there opportunity to service clients who perhaps have been ignored by the industry?
Yeah. Do you think there's a massive gap right now, advice gap?
Absolutely. So one of the reasons why I did pursue this is because of the annoyance I felt when my eyes were opened to this world of investments, and I thought, how dare they not tell me that this exists? I was like, all of the things I could have been doing up until this point, had I have known how to manage my money. And so I wanted to be the advisor that I wish I had when I was designing, when I was creating. And something that I strongly believe in is that you don't have to start wealthy to become wealthy.
Yeah, okay.
But I think a lot of advice is aimed just at the already wealthy people. And that's not fair, because that's how you keep the wealth concentrated at the top. And the gap just widens and widens. And I'm just not into that at all. So the part of the joy I get out of my job is identifying those who are talented and ambitious and are interested in managing their money but just don't know how, helping them at the start and watching that grow and watching that flourish. Because, you know, the wealthier people are, or should I say the more successful entrepreneurs and business owners we have, that benefits society because they're paying more taxes, they're creating more jobs. So it's in everybody's interest to build people up.
People are saying like, well, you know, robo-advice propositions, fintech propositions, these are the things that millennials want. This is what the next generation requires. But yet we see them close. You know, they're closing, you know, they open and they close.
Yeah. Well, they also tell us if we stop having avocado on toast, we'll be able to buy a home. So I would take that advice with a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
I think the robo-advice is great. I am a consumer of a challenger bank myself.
Okay.
I think the savings pot is brilliant. I think the ability to use it abroad without fees is long overdue. So all of that stuff is great. I don't think it negates a need for face-to-face advice. Going back to the earlier points of if you are taken ill or somebody in your family is made redundant and they can't provide for the family, you want to speak to somebody, even if it's just for a hug and a reassurance that it's going to be okay. And an app can't give you that. But where I do think the apps are great is they get people into the habit of putting money away.
And start thinking about it.
And start thinking about it. Is it going to achieve their goals? Is it serving them in the best way possible? I couldn't comment on that.
So so do you think larger financial advice companies or financial advice companies as a whole should really start incorporating robo-advice into their proposition?
Yeah. I think, you know, it's a digital age. I think if you're not keeping up with tech, then you're going to fall behind. But I don't think, fortunately for me and my job, that AI will fully take over financial advice.
So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's an addition. It's like marketing, basically.
It's complementary, absolutely.
Let's get some money in. You know, once it's in, yes, we give it a lower rate charge, give them a feel, then we can financially educate them. And then perhaps we can then go across them when they've got a bit more money coming in and they need some advice around a certain life decision around money, then they know who to call.
Absolutely. And
building that relationship again, isn't it?
I was just going to say that the power of human connection is not to be underestimated.
Yeah, it's the best.
And, you know, even you and I, the amount of LinkedIn messages I receive every day, and it's, you know, it's very generic and it's very vague. And that's just from you.
Yeah.
But the fact that you reached out and I took the time to respond and we had a human connection then we spoke on the phone and we're here today. And I think that's a brilliant example of organic growth, organic connection, and that's not to be underestimated. And the challenger banks, they serve their purpose. I am a consumer of them, but it doesn't take over face-to-face.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. So what I'd really like to now sort of focus on is branding and personal branding. Okay, so if we're talking about the face-to-face approach to winning clients and building relationships, what part do you think marketing and branding plays in financial advice?
The part it plays currently is a very small part. The part I think it should play is huge.
Okay.
Again, financial planners or advisors are heavily restricted by regulation, and rightly so. And it's not the British way to brag about ourselves in the main. You know, when we don't shout from the rooftops how great we are, you know, we're quite, you know, stiff upper lip and all of that. Where I think we could learn from our American colleagues is to self-promote, because I spent a lot of my own money to do my exams. It wasn't sponsored or paid for, out of my own pocket. I spent a lot of time studying. SJP did about 9 months due diligence on me before they'd even let me through the door, and vice versa. So I've gone through a whole process. So in theory, why should I not be self-promoting and telling people what my skills are? Because, you know, they're substantiated and it's true. But it's just not the done thing. And I think the reason for that is purely because no one's doing it.
Yeah.
It's that being first, you know, and it's quite vulnerable to put yourself out there in 100%. Front of everybody. Particularly the thing I've found, and I'm interested in your opinion with LinkedIn, is that you cannot hide or should not hide behind a username and a filter and all of this stuff, a private profile. It's your full government name, your employer, your real headshot without dog ears or whatever it may be. And so there's something really vulnerable about putting your opinion out there.
And LinkedIn's a bit like that anyway. It's a professional network and no one quite knows how to behave. You know, if somebody puts out something which is relatively sensitive, someone's, oh God, just being sensitive. You know, there's so many do's and don'ts, and there seems to be like this kind of LinkedIn police, and people are policing themselves. Then this is a professional network.
I saw it this morning about the Brits. It said, "Oh, music's too politicized. It needs to just go back to being pop music," and then someone else weighs in, and no, it shouldn't. And it's like, oh my goodness, like what is going on?
Yeah, people don't quite know how to take it. I personally think LinkedIn's a great platform. So I run a recruitment agency, and the idea of running a recruitment agency is to be able to network and connect with decision makers within companies, and to connect with my candidate market, so people that would be open and interested into job opportunities that we're talking about. So the most people who use LinkedIn the most are recruiters. They're on it pretty much 24/7. You're like living in it. I have to tell my guys not to be on it so much because you can get lost in all the crap on that, you know. But when I speak to financial advisors and I ask them the question, how do you generate your clients? Nobody really talks about LinkedIn. It's a really underused tool.
That's interesting.
Hugely underused.
So what do they say?
They just don't know how to use it. They don't like approaching people on LinkedIn. They don't know how to use it to find their clients, and they don't want to put themselves out there. So when we talk about I talk about LinkedIn as being like the front end and like the back end. So if you have like a sales navigator, or we'd use like a recruiter account, that's like a kind of in-mail system. And then the front end is about you promoting yourself like on the news feed. And I think you're right what you said earlier, is that people have a fear of putting themselves out there and being shot.
Yes.
Because it's your job. And there is an element of your instinct saying, don't do this because it's your security. Don't put yourself out there because there's a chance that someone might judge you.
Yeah.
And there's a big part of that. It's a bit of a judgy environment, LinkedIn.
And don't forget, we now live in this cancel culture whereby you make one wrong comment and the masses are calling for your resignation.
Yeah, exactly.
So I understand why people are hesitant to put themselves out there.
But if you don't, the personal part for mine is it's all about personal brand moving forward. So the reason I'm doing this podcast, for example, is to be able to put my brand out there personally, not just Recruit UK as a business, but me as an individual, my points, my opinion. I've been doing the job for a long time. I feel like I've got a lot to give, so I want to be able to share it. Some people are going to like me and some people are going to dislike me, so I've got to just deal with that, But the content that gets shared and gets put out there will get me noticed. And if every week I'm putting new content out there, and that's what it's all about, is content. If I'm commenting on the market, if I'm commenting on the things that you're thinking about when it comes to thinking about leaving your job, or what financial advice firm to join, or what culture is like, then it's current. And most people tend to log into LinkedIn when they are thinking about a job. Yeah. So for me, but for how a financial advisor can use it, I think they're not using the in-mails correctly, or targeting and connecting with people in the right way.
I'm intrigued. What is the right way to do it?
So it's about building your niche market, and picking a niche market and trying to stick to it. So for example, my niche market is financial advisors. So I connect predominantly with people within financial advice, or people that are connected to financial advice that can potentially introduce me to relevant people. So if I was had my own financial advice business, for example, then I would be reaching out to accountants and solicitors who deal with the types of individuals that my clients would be. So if I was after entrepreneurs from a tech environment, etc., I'd be researching who the top 150 to 50 tech companies are, and I would be reaching out to those individual tech companies, and I'd be connecting with each and every person who works within that company. Now I'd be probably looking also at their employees based on their net worth. So I would probably not their net worth, but more on their salaries. Yeah. So what potentially as a project manager on an average would earn at a company like that. So I might well be targeting people from the 100k to 150k plus market, or CEO directors, and trying to connect with those people, because I know that if they're going to be seeing my content as a financial advisor and they like me, then they're going to build a relationship with me, and the likelihood is they might reach out to me if there's a bit of content that I'm sharing that's interesting. So it's about building your audience on the front end, creating good, relevant content that will interest them. So if I'm thinking, right, I'm going to target startup banks or tech with fintech, then I need to write content that's relevant to that audience, that's going to cross over between financial advice and their job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you touch on an interesting point that a lot of people, myself at one point included, romanticize the struggle of learning the skills they don't have. For example, I was coming up with my content ideas, and that was great, and I was spider diagrams and brainstorming. Then I decided, okay, I need to buy the equipment, and I need to teach myself how to shoot and how to edit. And then a friend said to me, Jade, calm down, take a step back. Why are you stressing yourself out with this when you could just hire somebody to do it? And I said, no, but I have to do it. It's got to be me. Control. And it's cheating and blah, blah, blah. And then she said, is your CEO doing your job? Is your CEO doing the back office? Da, 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 da. That's delegation, and that's entrepreneurship, and that's business ownership. Stop focusing on the things you can't do and double down on the things you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
And from there, I've been stress-free, thankfully. So thank you to that friend.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's exactly the route that I would suggest as well. It's like things like this. It's like about, I wanted to get out and see more people. So I want to get out and see more companies. I want to get out and meet more people face to face. I believe in the value of face to face. I've been behind a screen for so long doing marketing, and that is doing my head in. So I was like, right, well, how can I combine the two? Well, combine the two is go out, sit down with you, talk about the industry, create some content, put it out on the internet, and double whammy. Yeah. So I get to go out and meet people. It's a great way for me to get in with other companies and get in with people. And I got content on the side of it as well. So it's about being smart around the content and like looking at the fact that there's SEO, which is definitely important to drive traffic to your website, but will that make you lots of money, and how expensive is that to do, and how time consuming is that? So pass that to somebody else. And I think as well, when you start to work out the way to outsource marketing tasks that can be automated and outsourced, you can outsource it to India, you can outsource it to Asia. So there's lots of ways to utilize outsourcing services and still do your job, which is going to make you money on a daily basis. Absolutely.
I was getting caught up in all of these, like you said, the SEO and the content creation. And then I thought, actually, people go to university for this. People study for this.
Yeah,
this is, and actually, it's probably insulting of me to think that I can read a few blogs and all of a sudden do it. So, like you said, I started outsourcing and delegating, and that brought me back to doing what I like to do and do best, which is the relationship piece, the speaking to people, the getting to know them. Why am I spending hours and hours and hours doing something that I never got into this industry for, albeit it needs doing?
And pick your platforms as well. I mean, LinkedIn, it is a professional platform, but a lot of your clients are going to be professional. Get them in the job arena, create content that's going to attract them on that. Don't be afraid to reach out and send them a message. Hi, how you doing? I know you're working for such and such. I'm running a financial education piece around whatever. Would you like to come along? Or I'm in your area, can I come and meet you? So I think there's that reaching out that doesn't happen as much as, say, in recruitment. Recruitment is, I'm going to reach out to as many people as I can, and we could get a name for it. But I think is that I don't want to pester people approach, but you're very articulate, and the email you sent me was well written. So I think someone would appreciate that type of content from you.
Well, I think also people can smell bullshit.
Of course they can.
If I can say that. And you can receive so many disingenuous messages or hard sales pitches. The amount of people who've connected with me with no personalized notes and then sent me a sales pitch or asked me to buy a product. And I think, where is the connection? You don't know me.
And there's automated software out there as well, where it can pick up your name and it can pick up your job title, it can pick up everything, and it would just send it and automate it out for you, which is useful sometimes. But if it's not well crafted, it looks bloody obvious. Especially when they get things wrong. I would just say, don't be fearful around LinkedIn. Use it. Start playing with it a little bit, and just start measuring the success you get back off of it.
The thing that helped me is I read something that said, your first podcast, your first blog, your first anything is going to be terrible. So just accept it and move on, because you can't get to the 50th, which is brilliant, if you don't do the first.
Oh, God.
And so that started me thinking, do you know what? If it's terrible, that's absolutely fine. It's got to be terrible for me to progress.
100%.
And if that is the hurdle for me to get over, I will happily get over that hurdle. And it helped me with my mindset.
Exactly. And you've got to get over those fears that are associated to it. And it's a growth mentality, isn't it? A growth mindset. So going back then to when you joined St. James's Place, you mentioned there that you did your own qualifications off your own back and paid for it.
Yes.
Did you not go through the academy?
No, I didn't. That's a good question. Why I didn't. I knew I wanted to work for St. James's Place because they are the largest wealth manager in the country. They manage £117 billion worth of clients' money.
Just a few quid.
Yeah, just a few. And they, for me, were the most entrepreneurial firm. So although my career transition from fashion to finance seems a bit odd, I always knew I wanted to own my own business, whether I was selling clothes or selling stocks and bonds. I always knew I wanted to be my own boss. I have always been an ambitious person. So going into a financial planning role where I was given leads perhaps or given clients, obviously that's lovely, but I knew it wouldn't feed me and satisfy what I needed to be stimulated. So I applied to St. James's Place and they said, you know, you've had a few years experience in financial services. We'd just put you straight into practice. We think you can do it, but you need your exams. It was hard, but I love a challenge. So I said, okay, well, I'll rise to the challenge. I'll do it. And yeah, I took myself through that process. Now,
how long did it take to pass the exams? Did you have any before you went in?
No.
You had none?
No.
So you joined St. James's Place without any qualification?
Oh, no, sorry. I had none at the point of this phone call, and then I sat them. So I think in total, I did 3 exams, and I think it took me about 14 months, but I took a break of about 5 months in between. And if anyone is doing the exams now, the biggest piece of advice I can give is do not take a break. Because I think I sat the exam on the Wednesday, let's say, and I said, right, I'll give myself the rest of the week and the weekend to just relax, celebrate, decompress, and I'll start again.
Yeah.
And then it was about 5 or 6 months later because you just fall out of the habit of it. But that was tough. You know, I was working full time, 8 till 5, and studying in the evening. And don't forget...
Who were you working for at the time?
I was working for a stockbroker at the time.
Right, okay.
So that was pretty intense.
So you were working as a stockbroker. So you were working within a stockbroker.
Yes.
And what were you doing there?
I was doing AML and compliance.
Okay, cool. So you weren't, you know, just advising or anything like that, or stockbroking or anything?
So I was exposed to the corporate broking world, IPOs and M&As, and then the trading desks as well, but I wasn't actively advising clients.
Okay, so just for the purpose of the listeners to understand this, your journey from fashion to financial advice wasn't one without actually working within some other financial services companies up to it. Okay.
No.
So you worked within a stockbroker. What else did you work within?
I worked with a fund management company. And I worked for a human capital management company. So that's things like payroll and HR.
Okay.
Yeah. All of those roles were strategic. I knew that without prior qualification, I would be laughed out of an interview room if they even let me in.
Right.
And so I purposefully applied for roles which I knew would expose me to the elements of finance that I needed. And then when the time was right, I would study for my level 4.
Can I ask you, do you think now, looking back on it, do you think you could have gone from being a freelancer and working in the fashion industry as a buyer, do you think you could have transferred those skills directly over to St. James's Place if you could have just jumped onto the academy? Do you think you needed to go and work in those positions to get a feel for financial services?
No, I didn't. You definitely can go from any career to financial advice via the academy. The reason I didn't is like most things with finance, I just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't
on
my radar.
Was it there when you were?
It was there, but I guess, as the saying goes, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know where to look for things.
Do you think you might have been in a mindset of like, well, let me get some experience within financial services first?
I definitely did want the experience because for me to be the best financial planner I can be, I wanted to experience what the back office was like, what the cogs look like, how the worlds of finance works. So I'm glad I did it the way I did.
Okay.
But if I had have chose to gone from fashion buying to the academy, I could have.
Okay.
And SJP has a very robust program. And to give you some examples, people have come in from property, rugby players, mums who've taken time out of their careers to raise children have come back in. There's a real variety of people. So, it's a really great program for anyone who's interested.
Yeah, very excited to go and meet Sean Godfrey tomorrow, actually, at the academy over in Solihull. Mm-hmm. So, very interested to hear about it, and I had a good conversation with him on the telephone a couple of days ago. So, I think the problem we have is with like I said, aging financial advisor workforce aging out, not so many people coming into the industry. And a lack of training and development. Where the banks were used to hire people in as, say, a trainee advisor or come in as into bank assurance, for example, it was a great ground to start your career there, or a life company or whatever. And you would often go into the bank with the process and the mindset, I'm going to be a financial advisor. You might be a personal banker or a cashier. And some of the banks just go, right, we'll get the qualifications, we'll get you up and running. So they needed them. Mm-hmm. And RDR happened and the changes in the fee structure and everything. And the banks obviously kicked everybody out. And then it left a real gap in the market for training. Mm-hmm. And I think SJP are one of the companies, obviously, that are really trying to do this. And I think it's a great thing. You've got Open Work as well that are doing it with an Open Work Academy, and 2Plan Wealth Management have also taken part in that, and they've got a 2Plan Academy now. So you're starting to see academies surface. But I still think there's a real difficulty to attract people into the advice industry that haven't got, say, experience. Now, you know, when I asked you for some advice around that, and you said, well, why do you? And I felt that, well, power planners and administrators is a great pool of potential advisors, male and female, that are part qualified experience, ready to go. Just spend some money on training them, coach them, develop them, bring them into client meetings, and there's your next workforce. But then they're like, oh, I don't want to let go of a really good administrator. I don't want to let go of a really good power planner. So we're kind of at a stalemate, really. And forward-thinking companies like SJP that have the money, have the time, because there's a lot of very small financial planning companies out there that don't have the time or the money to be able to bring, but loads of people on a punt that they might be quite good. Yeah. So my question to you now is, what is the right type of person to be a financial advisor? Who would be the right type of mindset? What should they expect? Because it's not as easy as you thought, is it?
No, definitely not.
So let's talk about the reality of it. What type of person would best suit becoming a financial planner?
So the main thing is the emotional intelligence, because the role is all about people. So if you don't like people, or you can't get on with people, or you don't like to be around people, it's not the job for you. And then you have to be tenacious and driven and ambitious and all of those good things. And I know a lot of people say they are, but you need thick skin in this role. And if you don't take rejection and frequent rejection well, the industry is just going to chew you up and spit you out. With that being said, if you're somebody who thrives on challenge and goals and setting yourself goals, and you strike me as that type of person, every day is a challenge to better yourself, whether it's to organize your time better or to be better with your clients, to develop your technical knowledge. There are so many hats to wear that there's never a dull day, and there's never a way that you can't improve. So you have to be hungry to learn. And that's across the spectrum, because obviously book smarts are important. We're dealing with finance. You need to be technically sound. But like the gentleman we're meeting tomorrow, we are keen to learn how to be more compassionate people. I want to learn how to be a better marketer and a better brander. So this role is ideal for somebody who is ambitious and doesn't want to cap on their success and their potential, because really it is what you make it. And if you want to come into this and kind of run a mid-sized firm and it's quite comfortable, you absolutely can. But if you want to come in and really just run with it, then it's perfect for you.
Did you go straight into self-employed with St. James's Place?
Yes.
Wow.
I know.
Well, that's ballsy, isn't it?
But again, I am a in for a penny, in for a pound type of person. And actually, I've had well-paying roles that have come with the comforts of pension, and one company actually every 2 weeks brought in a masseuse, which was lovely. Wow. Reflexologist, Reiki, and when I left, people said, Jade, you are mad. But in this role, I love Sundays because I'm prepping for the next week. There's no such thing as, I have to work late. I'm happy to do it. I'm so driven by what my success could be if I work hard enough. So yeah, it was a challenge, but sink or swim, right? I'm a big believer in that.
Do you think the lifestyle of a financial planner suits you?
Yes, that's a good question. I haven't considered that before. It does suit me.
Because although you're self-employed right now, you probably are still, because it's quite early days for you, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you're early on in your career. Mm-hmm. So you do need that mentorship, don't you?
Yes.
Being self-employed, you need that mentorship and you need that structure. And I can imagine you quite enjoy a bit of structure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm assuming there, I don't know. I can imagine, and I think you value that structure because you kind of think,
I need that structure.
I need the structure, and I need to learn, and I need somebody there. If I give them everything, then hopefully they're going to give me something back.
Yeah.
So that's really beneficial. I think some people, they go self-employed, they're sat at home at their desk, right, today I'm a financial advisor on my own. I've left the bank, or I've left the company, and I've got no clients. What am I going to do? Whereas you're in that kind of self-employed stroke employed place, aren't you?
Yeah. So I actually consider myself an entrepreneur with stabilizers because my success is predicated on my efforts and my efforts alone. But I do have an excellent mentor in the Reddings founder. And I do have excellent...
What's her name?
Tracy Reddings.
Tracy Reddings.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tracy is an industry titan.
Yeah.
Everyone I know who knows her say, oh my goodness, she's amazing. Actually, when I started working at Reddings and I updated my LinkedIn, I had so many messages saying, I can't believe you're working with her. She's incredible.
Oh, that's good.
Excellent job decision on your behalf, Jade. So that was reassuring.
Who was saying that to you?
People from the industry, people I don't know.
Fab.
People knew her name and messaged me and said,
Cool.
You've aligned yourself with a real powerhouse there.
Good.
So that was always good to know. So Tracy supports me a lot. Actually, I met Tracy when I was working for a different practice, and it wasn't the ideal culture fit for me.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in culture, because if you do this job right, you're doing it for a long time. So it had to be spot on.
Yep.
And I met Tracy, and there was absolutely no financial gain in it for her whatsoever. But she took me under her wing and she said, I know what it's like to be a woman in this industry. I want to help you in any way. Just, to call me and we'll go for a glass of wine. And then the planets aligned, if you believe in that. And a few months later, she said, Jade, I'm in a position where I want to work with you. Would you come on board? So it happened really organically. And so to your point on mentorship, it's interesting because I have a few mentors and they've been really integral in my success so far. But I read a book by Sheryl Sandberg called Lean In. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
She's the COO of Facebook.
Yeah.
And she raises a good point that I think mentor and mentorship has become this buzzword, and everyone thinks you have to have a mentor. You can't be successful without a mentor.
Yeah.
And she gets a lot of strangers saying, will you be my mentor? And she said, actually, it's the other way around, a bit like, what was it she said? When you excel and you show your value, the mentor will appear.
Yep.
It's not the other way around.
When
It's
you
not
put it
that,
out there.
Yeah, it's not that you get a mentor and you become successful. You've got to give value back.
Put yourself out there, yeah.
Absolutely. But with that being said, the reason I decided wealth management and financial planning was for me is because I started in a back office role with a fund manager in Liverpool. And a twist of serendipity, on my third day, I sat at the welcome breakfast next to quite a senior person who is my mentor to this day. And he'll be made up I'm saying this because I make him listen to everything I do. And going back to your question about what type of person does well in this role, you have to be ballsy and you just have to ask for what you want, because no one's going to give it to you on a plate. And so I reached out to him and I said, listen, I've only been here for 3 days, but I'd love to get to know you and, spend some time learning about the business. And he said, yeah, absolutely. Next time you're in London, we'll get together. And that was 5 years ago now. And he is somebody who, when I'm not sure what's going on or I've got decisions to make, he's a soundboard and he's got years and years of experience. And so I'm a big advocate for mentors, but I wouldn't put too much weight onto the value, because
Do you think sometimes it's worrying sometimes to put yourself out there as a bit of a mentor, because you feel like some people might suck the energy out of you?
Yes.
If you're too...
It's like being a therapist. You listen to everybody's problems.
Yeah, you kind of... And somebody then kind of wants more from you all the time, and it's like, I've only got so much to give you. You're now going to need to go away and do some stuff yourself.
Yes.
And show that you put into practice what I'm teaching you. And I think that coaching and mentoring has its absolute pluses, but I think it's about the right person coming along. Now, you're I've forgotten her name again, sorry. Tracy obviously saw something in you that was similar to her, or she saw something in you that she doesn't see in others.
I'll tell you what it is. So we met at a SJP training event as a week-long conference, and we didn't speak for the whole event.
Yeah.
And on the last day, we happened to be sat on the same table, and we had to do this quiz. Name all the ways you can meet a client. And Tracy and I just locked eyes, and she said to me, I'm so competitive, we're going to win this. And I was like, I'm competitive and we will win this. And then that was kind of the moment that I was like, oh, I like this woman. It sounds so funny now looking back, but that was the moment where we both thought we're aligned in our values here. So
also as well, so without a doubt, we spoke about this is how we started communicating on LinkedIn. Again, it's the power of LinkedIn and reaching out to people. So I put some marketing out, some content that was relevant to my audience, which was females in financial advice and the lack of females in financial advice. And I put out a little article that created a lot of likes, didn't create a lot of comments, apart from I agree and all that kind of stuff. So what I did was reach out and ask some questions, and you came back to me. And one of the things that came up was female influencers within the financial advice industry, the lack of. So there aren't many female financial advice influencers, and there are a lack of females in director positions. I think 1 in 20 director roles within financial advice is female.
Isn't that outrageous?
Yeah. So as a female, looking at the industry when you were thinking about getting into it, did it feel accommodating? And obviously Tracy's been great, but you didn't meet Tracy first of all, did you? So did it feel accommodating to females?
No, it didn't. I can only speak for myself because of the type of person I am. If I am told I can't do it, then I will do it with bells on. But that's just me. But having the male mentor was interesting because he's very focused on promoting women and getting women into the industry. And so he became an ally for me. Yep. And rightly or wrongly, when the man advocates for the woman in a space where there aren't many women, it tends to carry a bit more weight, I feel. Or at least that's been my personal experience. And so throughout it, he kind of built me up. I said, this is what I want to do. And he was like, you can do it. I'll teach you how. Like, why would you think you can't? So that definitely helped me. With that being said, thinking commercially and strategically, I knew about 10,000 advisors are due to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. I know that only 15% of advisors are women, but by 2025, 60% of millionaires are going to be women. So I was like, okay, let's just connect the dots. This is simple maths here, you know, opportunity for me. Let's make the most of this, and decided that was the path I was going to go on. But yeah, you're right. There weren't many women that I saw.
So it didn't sort of, do you think if there were women in financial advice that were standing up and talk, and there are, I'm not disputing that, but predominantly it tends to be men, you know, that are the celebrities, if you like, or the influencers, and there are a few females, and I want to know more, by the way, so send them my way. I want to know more and I want to connect with more. But do you think if there were female influencers that were vocal and marketing themselves out and, you know, building on their personal brands, would you have connected more with financial advice?
Absolutely. Again,
would that attract more women to the industry?
I think without a doubt, and you know, I've said it before, but I really believe in it. If you can see it, you can be it.
Okay, cool.
So
yeah, you've got to see it, haven't you? If there's an article about 10 women having a fantastic time in financial advice and how it matches their lifestyle, how it matches what they want from their lives, how much, you know, financially what it gives them, I think people are going to go, wow, yeah, no, that's just normal, isn't it? It's like a role model, isn't it?
Well, even if we strip it back to basics and you look at children and toddlers, there's a reason girls gravitate to fairies and pink and dolls, and boys tend to gravitate to builders' tools and science, because that's what they see. Yeah. So they start to internalize that is for them. Yeah. I mean, this is a whole conversation for a different time, but
it's not. It's right.
But that doesn't.
It's got to start somewhere, isn't it?
Exactly. And then, so why does that change as we get older? Yeah. If we internalize those messages as children, then when we grow up into adults, if I only see white older men in this space, and I'm not a white older man, why would I think that that's for me? But we have a director on our board as of last November, Dame Helena Morrissey, who is one of the influencers I've been following for a few years. She has 9 children.
Does she?
8 or 9. I think it's 9.
Wow.
9 children. Absolute powerhouse, huge advocate for women. She founded the 30% Club, if you know of that.
No.
It's a women's initiative to eventually have 30% female directorship.
I did. Yeah, the charter.
Yeah. So she's come on board with SJP, which I think shows we are thinking about diversity and kind of moving with the times as well. But interestingly, what I've noticed is the female influencers, if you want to call them that, in the finance space, tend to be focused on debt management or budgeting, day-to-day spending. There aren't many, if any, talking about wealth generation and building wealth. Yeah, okay. And I wonder why that is. And part of me, as a young woman, feels slightly patronized by that.
Okay.
Because we're not all in debt.
Yeah. True.
Many aren't. We're not all incapable of budgeting. Some of us actually want to make money. Some of us want to invest. Some of us are interested in the exotic things we can do, but nobody seems to be serving that space. And I do wonder why that is. But again, that comes back to opportunity and getting more women into the space.
I really like that Gemma Godfrey, who runs Mueller.
Yes.
He ran Mueller. I think she's fantastic. She's always on the television, always being interviewed. She's a very positive female role model. You go back to what you said earlier about like men tend to be like kind of an advocate of females within advice, and they tend to have a bit more weight.
Yeah.
I felt a bit anxious about speaking about females in financial advice.
Why?
Because it felt like I was being patronising to women.
Yeah.
And so I've got Louise in my business that I've made, that she has earned her way up to become a director within the business. And it was like, well, we can get Louise talking about females in financial advice. And she did a great blog article and video, and she got a lot of response from it. But I was like, well, why can't I talk about it? As a man, and that's again that preconception of like what people think. So I thought, sod it, I'm putting myself out there, and I'm going to champion it. And I said to you before, I want to meet as many women in financial advice positions as possible, and I want to create a committee that are going to talk about ways that we can improve attracting females to financial advice companies.
Yeah, I see your point.
Is that patronising?
No, I see your point, and I see why you would think that. And look, let's be honest, no matter what you say or do, there'll always be somebody to oppose and say, oh, that's not right. Yeah, so that's just a fact of life, right? But look at the Emma Watson campaign. It was he for she. This year's International Women's Day theme is each for equal, because if you are in the minority where you don't necessarily have the power, or why is it patronizing to receive support from the people who can help and kind of lift you up?
I think women in sales roles I know we're not calling financial advice sales. Yeah. Essentially, there's a lot of characteristics of sales within financial advice.
Can I just add to that though? I think financial advice and sales gets a bad rep, but if you buy an iPhone, you've been sold to. If you go to Starbucks, you've been sold to. So I think sales is a word we need to just kind of leave behind.
Yeah, and I think, but I think the mindset that we spoke about earlier, and you're clearly displaying it. Crikey, I would hire 10 of you tomorrow to come and work for me. You remind me of Louise in my office. There is a certain mindset, male or female, that I look for in somebody, and you're bang on it. So SJP keep you in needs to keep you in their back pocket.
I'm going to forward this to my boss. Okay?
No, honestly, because you don't come across people like you, and it's refreshing to hear. But I do, and we've got quite a mixed team in my office now, and the females are doing fantastically well, and they are bloody good at building relationships. So there is something empathetic about the empathy side of it. I think suits financial advice really well. There's empathy there, there's understanding. I think we're touching on the fact that women also are going to be managing more of the household income. They're going to be inheriting more money. There are issues now, not issues, but there are things that women need to think about, like the gender pay gap and
maternity pay gap
and all those types of things. And I think more often than not, a female would like to talk to a female. So I think there is that plan, and that there is that route there for female advisors to come in and have a market to talk to. And there's loads out there. With only 27,000 financial advisors out there anyway, there's a huge amount of business out there, isn't there? And it's about making that advice accessible to women. Now, if there is no branding, there is no marketing that's being put in front of women, where do they know where to go? Yeah. There's a really good company in America called L-Invest.
Yes, Sally Krawcheck, I think her name is.
So I did a bit of research.
She does it really well.
Yeah, really well. Really cool. Yeah, I like all that.
She's actually the lady who discusses the investment gap and the wealth gap. And to your point of marketing and branding, she does it really well. So she did a video with Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye, the straight guy. And I think she's really engaging in a way that isn't patronizing. Because also, even as a woman, you can run the risk of patronizing other women because the thing I've noticed is the city can often lump women into one bucket, like speak to women, market to women, we work with women. Well, there's more than one way to be a woman.
More than one way to be a man.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't find that with men, because men are treated as individuals, in my experience. But women are put in the female category, and kind of, this is what women want. This is how to sell to women.
Do you not think men are put into categories? I think all men need to be a certain way, and that's why a lot of them can't live up to the expectations, and there's so much suicide.
Are you talking societally or in terms of investing? Because I think as a client, I would disagree. I think societally, you're absolutely right. In terms of,
But in respect of investing differently. Is that because men are more... So investing for men is more driven by profit?
No, it's because I think the conversations are more frank.
Okay.
I think it's,
More
hi
matter of
Sam,
fact.
what do you want? What are you interested in? Let me treat you as Sam. Whereas women can be treated as, it's a female client. This is what she must want. This is how she probably likes to be spoken to, which is ridiculous.
But I think get to know your client, because I think some men probably like to be spoken to the way that you speak to a female.
Mm-hmm.
I think they miss that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they get enough of that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they're just expected to crack on with it, and you kind of can sometimes, I think they can be categorized in a way that, because I think, again, that's emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I think if you sat down with me, it'd be a different conversation perhaps if you sat down with, I don't know, somebody else you've dealt with. I think it would be a different type of conversation, wouldn't it?
It wouldn't be as fun.
Okay, cool. So, all right, okay. So we touched on a bit there about branding. We touched on a bit about your career to date. And we touched on females in financial advice, which are kind of the topic areas that I was really interested in talking to you about. What I'd like to know is, what does the future hold for you? Where do you see your next year going?
My next year. So, well, I know for a fact my next year is going to be incredibly busy.
Yeah.
If you are interested in coming into financial planning, it's important to note that at least your first 12 months, it's going to be full steam ahead. It's activity, it's upskilling, it's technical knowledge. So my year is going to be full of just learning, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
But for the future of my business, I want to continue building more than a client book. I want to build a hub. One of my favorite parts of the job is connecting people.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So, you know, we work with jewelers, we work with life coaches, we work with doctors. So it's amazing to be able to plug the need of other clients.
Connecting them, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Like a facilitator.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that a lot.
And that goes back to the mindful and intentional vision of the business. It's not about a scattergun approach of, we'll work with anyone. I mean, of course we will.
Yeah.
But we want to add value beyond just the financial planning services. Who can we connect you to? How can we build you up? What does your business need to take you to the next level?
It's a little bit of guerrilla marketing there as well, isn't it? So you're like sort of piggybacking on the back of different clients and different industries within it, and elevating yourself so you're seen by the other side in a different way.
Yeah.
They do that, you know, when you said about the hub, you know, pulling people off of, a big thing at the moment in marketing is pulling people off of social media and putting them into your own environment, so your own platform. I wonder if, like, a bit further down, obviously financial advice companies use platforms, don't they? I wonder how much in the future that will be done, like those creating a kind of a society, you know, creating your client base within an enclosed environment, if you like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there
you
is
see it with
real...
the celebs, with it, so getting people to text now, isn't it? So text to me as opposed to...
Yes, that's a big thing.
You know?
I think the email marketing was oversaturated and people are jaded by that now. And so, you know, and that goes back to the point of technology. It's, you have to evolve with it or you'll get left behind. In terms of the hub, I feel there is a yearning for that human interaction again. And it's interesting
traditional
that...
approach.
Yeah. I think social media is great. I'm a big fan of it, but we've come so far removed from...
Get out of it.
Yeah, and I actually know kind of people, Gen Z and whatnot, who I feel are lacking certain social skills. Because they've only ever interacted through screens, Snapchat, you know, all of these things. And it's great that they're so tech literate. But they miss that human spark. And it's interesting that London is such a densely populated city, and yet loneliness is a huge problem. And so the hub is a great way to just connect like-minded people.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think that's spot on. What would your advice be to somebody in their first year of becoming a financial advisor? What would your advice be to them?
Are they qualified or unqualified?
Difficult, because you went in qualified, didn't you? Let's say qualified.
Okay.
Let's say your first year of being a self-employed financial advisor. What would your advice be?
Okay, don't do it. No, I'm only joking. My advice would be, it's all about activity, authenticity, and just hard work.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick. So if you're in it for the instant gratification, it's not for you. But just build those relationships, build those connections, and be prepared for the late nights. But it's worth it. It's totally worth it. And like I said, I skip to work every Monday, so.
You love it.
Yeah.
Made the right choice.
Absolutely.
Well, great. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
I want to keep in contact.
Yes,
because
definitely.
I want to hear really good things.
You can join my hub.
Yeah, I'll join the hub. Absolutely. Jade, it's been a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.